Welcome in to the PFF NFL betting show for week 4. Mason Cameron, Ben Linsey, and Max Chadwick here. Judah unfortunately couldn't be with us this week, but he'll be with us back next week as well. Here to break down the best lines for NFL week 4. Guys, it was a really fun ball game at the very end last night. The Seahawks coming out on top 23-20. Ben, you're telling me you were sweating out the final few minutes of that Thursday Night Football last night.
Yeah, I was having some flashbacks to some of my favorite spreads last week where teams blew big leads because I was on Seattle money line early in the week when they were still slight dogs. I had Seahawks -1.5 in circa million. It looked very good. Arizona marched a little bit of a comeback there, but luckily Seattle able to pull it out in the end.
And Mason, you went. We did a betting show a couple days ago, and you went 2 for 3, man. How about that? Nice job.
That was all you, Max. You ran the show perfectly. It put the vibes right. We hit a couple of nice ones. We've been on Seattle, all week, early in the week. We were telling people to bet them on Sunday when they were slight dogs, and then they ended up moving that line to -1.5. It got a little tight there, but honestly, with how bad the Cardinals played early on, I always knew that the Seahawks were going to pull that one out.
So you had, what was it, Trey Benson under rushing yards. It was Seahawks -1.5 and Sam Darnold over 1.5.
Sam Darnold over 1.5 passing touchdowns. The only one that missed there was that Sam Darnold line. It's a tough break there, but Sam will get it back.
We'll get it back. Yeah, he's still the highest rated quarterback in the NFL, I believe, right now.
He's been incredible.
Yeah, he's been unreal. Definitely not a one-hit wonder this year. Obviously, here on the PFF NFL betting show, we're giving out the best plays of the week, and a lot of them come from the PFF Plus app that you can download right now in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store too, and you get it for 25% off if you use the promo code PFF NFL Show 25. You see the app on the right side of the screen right here. I want to remind the chat too, for our prop culture segment. Let us know in the chat, what do you think your favorite prop bets are for NFL Week 4. We're going to do a parlay of some of our favorite prop bets that you guys send us in the chat. So get involved in the chat right now. So let's start off with our favorite game market bet of the week. Ben, what is your favorite market bet?
We're going to stay right there with that first game that you see on the PFF app. Vikings -2.5 against the Steelers. And I just think this matchup sets up very poorly for Pittsburgh on both sides of the ball. If you look at some of the underlying metrics for the Steelers this year, I know they're 2-1. They're tied for the AFC North lead. But they're bottom 10 in offensive success rate. They're bottom 10 in defensive success rate. And specifically this matchup with Aaron Rodgers against Brian Flores. We saw it last year when Rodgers was with the Jets. Obviously a different offense, but Rodgers threw the ball like 55 times, averaged 4.4 yards per attempt, 3 interceptions, 3 sacks taken in that game. And this year, his numbers against pressure, not good at all. 24% sack rate. He's 6 for 22 with 146 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. The Steelers' offensive line hasn't graded all that well in pass protection. I believe they're 25th overall in PFF pass block grade. And against the Brian Flores defense that gives you a ton of different looks, they're going to create free rushers. They're second in the NFL in pressure rate, behind only the Broncos this year. I think it's a matchup where the Steelers have struggled to run the ball. It's going to be a lot on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders, and he's not going to have a ton of clean pockets to work with. And I just think from that perspective, they're going to struggle to move the ball. And then on the other side, the Steelers' defense we came into the year where, they have a lot of talent.
Yep.
And they should be a top 10, top half of the NFL type of defense. They have certainly not been that through the first 3 weeks of the season. They're 30th in success rate allowed, ahead of only the Dolphins and, surprisingly, the Eagles in that group. So they might get Joey Porter Jr. back. They might get Deshaun Elliott back. Those guys' stats still up in the air as far as the last I've seen. But the Vikings get Jordan Addison back. We saw their offense look a little bit more stable with Carson Wentz at quarterback last week against the Bengals. I just think both sides of the ball, this sets up really well for the Vikings under a field goal.
As a lifelong Steelers fan, this bet hurts me. And I know you're also a lifelong Steelers fan too, right, Ben? So this is you being a very unbiased analyst right now, so I appreciate that.
There's a lot of pain at this table.
Yeah.
I'm learning. And another thing to bring up, we're bringing up the offensive line. And another place where that's struggled is actually something that I wrote about in our bets of the week this week. You guys can actually go onto PFF.com, get all of our bets of the week, our prop bets of the week, straight from the PFF player prop tool. Another one that I was liking from that game is actually Jaylen Warren under 60.5 rushing yards, just because they have had so much trouble up front. They're only generating 0.3 yards before contact, which isn't a great look, especially against, like you said, Ben, Brian Flores' defense has been playing so well. And when we see this Steelers running game, they love to flow through the inside zone. They run the third highest rate of it in the NFL, and the Vikings have defended it extremely well this year. 72.6 PFF run defense grade. That's 7th in the NFL. So it's going to be a bit of tough sledding for the running game. And like you said, I think it's going to be a tough sledding for the offense in general.
Yeah, and I was on, the SGP I was on last week was Carson Wentz, TJ Hawkinson. I will stand by that being good process. that was Carson Wentz averaged like 9 yards per attempt. TJ Hawkinson had 50 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Rodgers just decided to get the first 99.9 PFF grade and score 2 defensive touchdowns, so the Vikings didn't have to pass. But I'm bringing that up because, I think, honestly, I might run it back this week.
Yeah.
With how the Steelers secondary has played, they've given up big explosives. Obviously, the Vikings have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. The Steelers also have struggled against tight ends. We just saw Hunter Henry put up a massive game against them last week with New England, and Wentz was looking for Hawkinson, right? And I think this is a spot where you can potentially attack a similar angle if you didn't lose too much money on Carson Wentz last week, like I did.
So we're never wrong here on the PFF NFL betting show. We're just early.
We're
only early on bets, even though you are technically wrong sometimes on bets and losing money because of it. Mason, what is your favorite game bet of the week?
So, one of the games that I was looking through here, and I know it's tough. But I've got to fade Philly on the road against Tampa. Tampa plus 3.5. It's really about the hook here. Whenever I'm going to get that added line value there, I'm going to have to entertain that idea. I mean, if we look at it, these two teams end their games last week in dramatic fashion, in absolute dramatic fashion. We've taken some hits there. Ben, we were on the Rams at plus 3.5 there last week for Philly, and blocked field goals really affected the outcomes of these games late. The Jets had a backdoor cover off of Tampa. Baker still finds a way to get out there and win it. If those two plays don't happen, Tampa 3-0 against the spread, Philly 1-2 against the spread. And I just think that Tampa is well equipped to deal with Philly's run game. They're 4th in run defense grade at 78.5. We talk about that funnel that they like to do and funnel things inside. I just don't have a ton of confidence that they can get the running game going with Tampa allowing the lowest successful play rate on runs at 15%. I'm just not confident that Jalen Hurts can beat them. He's 25th in yards per attempt at 6.2, 25th in big time throw rate. He just has 2 on the season. That's 2.6%. He only has 9 completions, 10 or more yards downfield. So it's just not a great matchup stylistically for them. And then Tampa getting stronger. I know they have no Mike Evans, but we're looking at potentially getting Tristan Wirfs back, Chris Godwin. They both practiced this week. I know Godwin had sort of a DNP there in the middle of the week. I think the idea there has been, potentially not a setback, but more of a rest day, let him get more in line. And that could be a problem for Philly. We've seen quite a bit of regression from the coverage unit. They rank about middle of the league, 15th in PFF coverage grade, and that's really a far cry from their league-leading 90-plus PFF coverage grade last season in 2024. Dory Jackson dealing with the groin. They've really been sort of strapped at corner. They're kind of turning over all stones to find depth there right now. And I really think they can take advantage of Jackson if he does play. 41.3 PFF coverage grade. That's 95th out of 99 corners, and I expect him to get picked on quite a bit.
Yeah, and I this show's not going to just turn into me venting, but going back to that Rams Eagles game, like the Rams were winning 26-7 pretty late in that game, which is what made the block field goal hurt that much more. And I think a big part of Tampa Bay covering this is being able to run the ball on Philly. The Eagles, if you look at percentage of plays allowing positive EPA in the run game, they're dead last in the NFL by about 5 percentage points. The Rams, with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, were able to run the ball successfully on them in that game last week. That's how they built their lead. Will the Bucs be able to do that? We saw their run game be really good last year with a good offensive line. It's taken a little bit of a step back this season with some of the injuries, but still, in that game against Houston, they were able to run the ball successfully a decent amount. Like, I think that's going to be the key for Tampa Bay with the injuries they have at wide receiver, with Mike Evans out, with the injuries they have on the offensive line. If they're able to lean on the run game, I think that gives them their best chance to cover. And then on the Philly side, that comeback was really just A.J. Brown bullying the smaller corners of the Los Angeles Rams. And Jalen Hurts' downfield passing numbers have not been great. He's generally not passed the ball downfield this year. I think that's a big part of it. Like, when you look at his efficiency numbers passing deep, they've been pretty good throughout his career. This is just a question of whether he will do that and do that early in this game against Tampa Bay, and whether Brown and Devontae Smith can have the same success against bigger outside corners with Tampa than they did last week against the Rams.
You know, another big thing, we just have to talk about it because I got to talk about it every single time I get into the Buccaneers have Baker Mayfield also. Guy has ice in his veins, leading game-winning drives, and when you can give me the hook as well, I really like where his ability and his talent level allows them to go.
So my game market bet this week, and obviously I'm not the NFL betting expert like you two are, but I felt really good about it because, Mason, you came in this morning and said this is actually what I was going to go with before I took it, so I'm really happy about that. And you usually have a lot of notes on this sheet too.
You know ball.
For this. I appreciate that. I'm taking the Bengals-Broncos Monday Night Football under 44 points in this game. You just look at it right now. The Broncos right now are top 10 in the NFL in both pass rushing grade and run defense grade this year. And Bo Nix, their quarterback, he's dead last in the NFL this year in terms of PFF grade. The Bengals, meanwhile, are dead last in run blocking grade. They're one of the worst teams in pass blocking grade right now. They're 26th in the NFL. And, of course, Joe Burrow, who's out for probably most of, if not all of this season. Jake Browning right now, 60.9 PFF grade, is 28th in the league. Now, I know the Broncos secondary hasn't been as good as we thought it would be. This might be a get-right game, I think, for Denver in this one. So I really like the under in this one. I know the Bengals defense isn't great, but Bo Nix is not playing good football right now, and I think the Bengals offense is going to really struggle against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, and when we talk about it, Dalton has made this point on the NFL show, on the preview show, on the grade release show. Bo Nix's struggles are within his own mechanics and not necessarily the scheme. There are guys open. He's just sort of missing them. 44.0 pass grade at or beyond the sticks. That's last in the NFL again. On his throws, 10 or more yards downfield, he has a 34.8% adjusted completion percentage. That is, again, dead last in the NFL. And on those throws, 55% of his passes are considered uncatchable and inaccurate. That's nearly 9% higher than anybody else in the NFL. That is really where it becomes hard to trust Nix to be able to capitalize against a Bengals defense that has struggled. And then we talked about Jake Browning really struggling with the turnover-worthy plays. But the big thing here is that he's going to struggle a lot more under pressure against two of the top 12 edge rushers in the NFL in Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, as far as their pass rush win rates go, which are above 23% for each of them. This Denver pass rush is just still loaded, and I don't really think that the Bengals have much options to stop them or slow them down.
Yeah, it could get ugly on Monday night.
Yeah, it could get pretty ugly.
Yeah, that's what I like. I want to be on Bengals plus 7.5 in this game because the Broncos offense just has not looked great through a couple weeks, and they shouldn't be 7.5 points favorites over anyone necessarily. No. We saw week 1 8.5 against Tennessee. That didn't cover, right?
Right.
The thing that scares me a lot is Jake Browning against this pass rush, like you were talking about. Negative 0.6 EPA per play when pressured, going back to 2023 for Jake Browning. That would be last in the NFL. That would be worse than the Bryce Young Panthers, worse than all these teams we've seen that have really struggled against pressure. and Denver's the only team in the NFL with above a 50% pressure rate. And we saw them against the team with the second highest pressure rate in the NFL last season against the Vikings, and we saw how that went. They were able to generate nothing on offense. So I think the Bengals is probably the right side, but I'm not touching it when it comes to spread.
Yeah, and another reason why it's difficult to get on Cincinnati for the spread there too is that they just can't run the ball. You know, Gordon brought up a point that made it into the NFL show. This team is it has the second lowest run blocking grade as a team in the PFF era. That's since the 06 Lions. They have a 37.4 run blocking grade. That is just down horrendous. It is atrocious. Not a great look for them. If they were able to run the ball a little bit better, might be a different story, but they just can't right now. And as you talk about Jake Browning under pressure, 41.9 grade under pressure, 11.1 turnover-worthy play rate. That is a bad look.
Yeah, the Bengals' rushing grade right now is the lowest in the NFL, and the run blocking grade, like you mentioned, Mason, is 10 points lower basically than anyone else in the NFL right now. It is not pretty at all running the football for Cincinnati, and with a backup quarterback now in Jake Browning, you need to be able to run the football. In this game against Denver, I just don't know how possible that really is. I want to remind you guys again, please throw in your prop bets of the week in the chat. We'll make a parlay of them at the very end of the show as well. We'll get to our prop bets in just a second. But first, we're going to talk about DraftKings. This PFF betting segment is brought to you by DraftKings. You can see on the PFF Plus app all of the lines from DraftKings Sportsbook right now, all the player props from DraftKings Sportsbook as well. And the NFL season is rolling, and every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Every game is another chance to cash in. Don't just watch the action, win with it. DraftKings Sportsbook delivers the unmatched intensity of the NFL right to your fingertips. From first touchdown scorer to anytime touchdown props, or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. New customers, this one is for you. Bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets instantly, plus score over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Your season is heating up. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code PFF. That's code PFF to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet, plus over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies with jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use are excluded. Restrictions may apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer. All right, let's get into our favorite prop bets of the week. Mason, hit me with your favorite prop bet of the week 4.
I'm just loving Bijan Robinson. How he is just such an amazing player. He is one of the most talented players in the NFL, and I'm really liking his over in receiving yardage here at 24.5 receiving yards. It varies at some other spots. I know over at DraftKings we have it about 27.5. That doesn't really scare me away either. I think this team is going to continue to try to get him involved in that way. Raheem Morris said he's definitely the best player in football, and what do you do with the best player in football? You get him the football by any means necessary. Washington can really restrict the run game. They're second in run defense grade at 84.6, 8th in successful play rate allowed at just 25.6% versus runs. And what we've seen is that they've really sort of contained backs pretty well throughout the year. And I see Atlanta sort of struggling to get going on the ground, but of course you got to get the ball in the hands of your best players, and Bijan Robinson is definitely going to get that. He had some targets even last week that, Sometimes Michael Penix maybe just sort of rips it over to him, not quite thinking, not quite looking. But I think that can sort of play to their advantage if they take it a more measured approach. And, Dalton put it into the ether when we were talking about the grading show, that the Falcons were really kind of tipping their pitches. If they get more, creative with their looks, run more play action, I think that can really open up this offense, particularly in the passing game and particularly targeting the running back. And when we look at Robinson's numbers in the passing game, he has 18 targets. That's tied for the second most on the team. Top 4 among running backs in the NFL. He's got 5+ targets each game and over 25 yards in each game. So I really like his chances to go over here. And Washington hasn't quite faced a receiving threat like Bijan. They've still allowed 4 receptions of 15+ yards, 11.7 yards per reception. So I'm liking where he's going to be with that.
Yeah, that was, first off, good usage of the word ether. Right there. But Bijan can obviously hit this in any matchup. Like you were saying, he's one of the most talented backs in the league. Very fun to watch. I think my biggest concern with this is the matchup against Washington. If you look, they just tend to limit receptions to running backs. Since the start of last season, they're first in the NFL by 10 receptions, the receptions allowed to running backs. This year, they haven't really faced a great receiving back threat, like you said, but they're still third fewest receptions allowed to running backs. So typically when you see teams against Washington, they're more pushing the ball downfield. The Green Bay in week 2, Trey Tucker going off last week. Like I think if I'm attacking the Atlanta passing game, which I do think I kind of like the Atlanta passing game in this spot, a little bit more interest in kind of the downfield targets for them. But again, Bijan can hit this in one reception, like we saw in that game against Tampa Bay early, where he breaks a big run after the catch.
Yeah, and I think a big thing too is they've gotten a little more banged up in the secondary there. I think Reeves is going to be making the start at safety there for him. He's going to be playing in the box quite a bit. I would like to think that he can take advantage of that matchup there. Robinson can take advantage of that matchup there. And I actually like where you're going there with the Washington secondary downfield too. We're going to hit on that a little bit in the same game parlay that I have a little bit later here. So
I like it. No, you look at Bijan right now. I mean, he hit 100 yards receiving in week 1, 25, so just over that 24.5 line in week 2, and the 39 this past week. It's pretty much an average of over 50 receiving yards a game, so it's pretty smart to bet on him right now. He's been really good for Atlanta so far this year. Ben, what is your favorite prop bet of the week 4?
We're going to Sunday Night Football, and we're going to pick on a team while they're down with the Dallas Cowboys here, and their secondary – absolutely abysmal through the first few weeks of the season. Gave up 450 passing yards to Russell Wilson, who just got benched one week later. I don't know how often that has happened. The guy throwing for that many yards and getting benched 1 week later. But that game, and then last week, making the Bears passing offense look great when they've really struggled the first few weeks of the season. So Jordan Love, over 230.5 passing yards. Green Bay obviously is a team that if they can run the ball, they want to run the ball. So you have to worry a little bit with passing volume for Jordan Love. But I just think that they're going to be so explosive in the passing game that it doesn't necessarily matter. You can see the key insight there on the PFF app. Jordan Love is top 10 in the league in 20-plus yard completions. Dallas dead last in deep completions allowed. Right? And I think a lot of that over 230.5 that I'm projecting is coming through these big explosives. The Cowboys have allowed 8.6 yards per dropback this year. That's last in the NFL by over a yard. And Jordan Love in 3 full games versus Eberflus, because Cowboys defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus was with the Chicago Bears the last couple of years, so it was an in-division matchup for Jordan Love. Didn't play the full game week 18 last year, I believe, because they didn't need it. They put in Malik Willis. But in the 3 full games that he's played against Eberflus in the last 2 years, 10.8 yards per attempt, 128.3 passer rating. They've been really explosive, really efficient. This is a Cowboys defense that has not been able to stop lesser offenses. And you get the added benefit of Green Bay is coming into this game trying to get the taste from last week out of their mouth against the loss to Cleveland. Right? So I given what we've seen from Matt LaFleur, it always seems like that Thursday night game against Washington, when they're beating Washington pretty handily at halftime, and then you're at the halftime interview with Matt LaFleur, and he's like, we got to be better. We got to clean up so much stuff. It seems like he's kind of a perfectionist in that way.
Yeah.
Which is kind of an anecdotal piece that I'm tying into this, that like I think there's going to be extra motivation. I think they're going to try to win by margin. And the easiest way to do that is these big explosive plays downfield to Matthew Golden, to Romeo Doubs. Like I think this sets up really nicely for a Matthew Golden breakout game for the Packers.
You know, and we talked about this last week when I took quite a beating on the over for the Bears-Cowboys there. And the Bears end up, you know, doing it. Caleb Williams, NFC Offensive Player of the Week. I don't have a lot of confidence in whatever the Cowboys are putting out there defensively right now. You can tell that they're very much lacking a pass rush. They're very much lacking any presence downfield and coverage. And both corners banged up a little bit. Diggs with a knee. I know Bland has been dealing with a foot. I really just don't like their chances against pretty much any offense right now in the NFL. And when you come up against, like you said, a guy like Jordan Love, I think that it's just a foregone conclusion. He's going to pick his spots. He's really going to be able to push the issue and take this game over. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah, and the other thing that's kind of concerning is the Cowboys are not complicated on the back end defensively. 70% of their plays are cover 2 or cover 3. That's second highest in the NFL. And you have Matt Eberflus talking this week about getting simplified calls out to the defense so that they know what they're in and they're not blowing things. It's like it's not complicated already,
Yeah.
And you're trying to simplify it even farther. The Packers are second in EPA per pass play against cover 2 and cover 3 going back to last season. Like I just think this sets up really well for Love.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think betting any over against the Cowboys defense right now is probably a smart bet the way they're playing on defense right now. I'm going to stay in that same game and actually go with the quarterback prop too. I'm going to go with Dak Prescott under 5.5 rushing yards right now. So if you look at the Packers, they've only allowed 17 rushing yards from quarterbacks all season. Jaden Daniels had 17 of those rushing yards, and he averages over 50 rushing yards a game. Edgerrin Cooper is a guy I'm watching in this game. He's an excellent spy for that Green Bay Packers defense. He is the 5th highest graded linebacker over the last 2 years since his rookie year, really, last year. Dak has gone under 5.5 rushing yards in 6 of his last 8 games, and the Packers overall are 8th in run defense grade this year. I do think it might turn into a game where Dak's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, and the fact that CeeDee Lamb is at least questionable for this game kind of scares me a little bit with this one. So there is a chance that one run from Dak could break this over, but I think Dak Prescott is going to throw the ball a lot against a Packers secondary has been at times vulnerable this year. I don't know if he's going to be able to run away from Edgerrin Cooper in that Packers defense. So I'm going to go with the under 5.5 rushing yards here.
Well, and you have to also, they got Michael Parsons on the other side there, who's going to be motivated to bring down his guy. I know he said it was going to be a painful sort of comeback there, but I think he's going to be more than happy to put Dak on the ground, and I think that he's going to get there more often than not. Guyton has just not been very good in pass pro this year. The whole offensive line has struggled, but Guyton in particular, he's 65th out of 68 tackles in PFF pass blocking grade at a 37.5, so not a great look for them, and I think they're going to really struggle to block up front and keep this Packers pass rush from getting home a lot. And now that can mean that Dak gets flushed out of the pocket.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he's going to be able to capitalize to break the line of scrimmage and get downfield to any consistent degree.
The Packers defense, you saw it kind of at the end of last year, but I think they're top 2, top 3 in rallying to the football and speed to the football and making tackles, which on a quarterback rushing prop, obviously very important. Edgerrin Cooper, Quay Walker, great athletes, fly to the football. So I like that one as well. And just kind of to talk about this other side of the football a little bit, since we're already on this game, the Cowboys passing offense without CeeDee Lamb, I'm very, very scared about what that might be. If you look back since 2023, with Dak on the field and with CeeDee Lamb off the field, they're averaging 4.8 yards per pass play, which would be tied last in the NFL with the Panthers if this was a full season sample. And yes, they're probably in a little bit better place now than they were at 24 and 23 without CD because you have George Pickens. But it's honestly a worse version of what we saw last year, where you have one viable wide receiver on the field and then not a ton else to really scare defenses, especially with how well this Green Bay defense is playing. Like I think Dallas is probably going to struggle to move the ball. So I know I called out Jordan Love for the player prop, but bonus game market bet, I like Packers -6.5, -7, depending on the book that you can get it at as well. And Jake Ferguson is a guy who could see a lot of targets in this game. We saw it last week against Chicago. Green Bay typically funnels kind of to underneath targets. They have a 6.4 average depth of target allowed, which is third fewest in the NFL. That's kind of Jake Ferguson's role, these quick possession type of routes. And without CeeDee Lamb, I think he could see another healthy week in target volume.
Yeah, I think going Dak maybe over completions too, because I think he's going to throw the ball a lot in this game. Even pass attempts could be a good one too. I just think this is a game where Dak Prescott's going to be playing from behind probably a lot in this one, like Ben just mentioned. So taking Dak over passing wise, but I'm taking Dak under rushing wise in this Sunday night game. So we'll get to our favorite same-game parlays at the end of the show. I want to remind you guys, please throw in your favorite prop bets of the week, and we'll get a parlay going with your favorite prop bets at the very end of the show. Before we get to all of that, though, got to talk about Fabric by Gerber Life. Parenting is filled with high-pressure decisions, and it can be difficult to tell if we've made the right choice for our kids' future. But here's a simple decision you can make today that can have a meaningful impact on your kids' future, and that's opening a UGMA Kids Investment Account with Fabric to start their investment journey early and give them a financial head start. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Kids can invest when they're minors, but a UGMA Kids Investment Account allows you to invest on their behalf now and gives those investments more time to grow. There are no contribution limits, multiple tax advantages, and they're SIPC insured up to $500,000. Plus, no commission fees, and just a low, flat monthly maintenance fee. Fabric has partnered with Gerber Life, trusted by millions of families like yours for over 50 years. And join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect the family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL, meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. Portfolios managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Additional services provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Learn more at meetfabric.com. All right, guys, let's make some serious money right now. Same game parlay time. Ben, hit me with your best same game parlay of the week.
Yeah, we'll try to make Judah proud with this one and catch up to him on the season because he's the only one who's got one so far. But I really like this Chargers-Giants game from the Chargers offense perspective. So the same game parlay I have right here is Omarion Hampton, 100-plus rushing yards, Ladd McConkey, 100-plus receiving yards, Cam Scatterbo, 25-plus receiving yards, and Giants under 17.5 team total. That is 140 to 1. So basically the thought process here is the Giants' run defense has really struggled to start the year. The Chiefs weren't able to capitalize because the Chiefs will not run the football, and when they do, it hasn't necessarily been effective. But even them, Isaiah Pacheco averaged 4.5 yards per carry against the Giants last week. All right, so they're 31st in EPA allowed per run play. They're 30th in explosive run rate allowed. And now you have Omarion Hampton stepping into this true lead back role with the Najee Harris injury. Hampton and Najee Harris are the only two running backs who have gotten carries this year. They have Hassan Haskins as depth, right? So he's probably going to get a few carries, but I expect Hampton is going to be the clear lead guy. And the Chargers have been super pass heavy through the first couple weeks of the season. That was a trend that dated back to the end of last year, basically after their bye week early in the season. They were one of the pass heaviest teams in the NFL in neutral game scripts. But I think they might run the football a little bit more against this Giants pass rush, given how much Herbert was pressured last week against Denver. Right, I don't think in a game that they're favored by 6.5, 6 points, that they're going to try to get Herbert killed back there behind an offensive line that's not all that great. So I think Hampton can get good volume, clear that 100. And then the McConkey part of it, he's kind of taken a back seat to Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen through the first couple weeks of the season. Right, and I'm seeing fantasy ranking people saying that Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston are better rest of the season. Don't necessarily agree with that. Right, yeah. McConkey is still their top guy. If you look at our advanced coverage grades, which kind of give the receiver a grade for separation, McConkey is still the top of those three in terms of generating separation consistently. by that receiving grade. And the Giants have really struggled to slot receivers. And McConkey is still leading the Chargers in routes run from the slot. The Giants have given up 318 receiving yards to slot receivers this year. It's dead last in the NFL. So I'm kind of banking on some explosives from McConkey in addition to that Hampton. And then running it back with the Giants side. Jackson Dart stepping in, that's kind of an unknown, right? We don't necessarily know what that's going to look like. Part of me is scared to bet Chargers spread just because we've seen Brian Daboll a couple years ago with Daniel Jones, a mobile quarterback. Like, the offense didn't look terrible. Like, maybe Dart can bring a little bit of that. But there's a long history of rookie round one quarterbacks in their first start performing very poorly. And this is a Chargers defense that has played really well under Jesse Minter. Tying back to what we were talking about with the Packers, I think the Chargers are another team that rallies to the football really well. And they kind of funnel to these underneath targets to running backs, which is why I threw Scatterbo 25-plus receiving yards in there. He's a guy who has proven that he can make plays out of the backfield as a receiver. 25 is a very reasonable amount if he's getting a bunch of checkdowns from Jackson Dart in this game. But overall, see the Giants offense struggling, so under 17.5 with the Chargers offense led by Hampton and McConkey rolling.
Isn't Scatterbo the highest graded running back right now in the NFL, I believe?
I think if you're saying it's true.
85.7.
Yeah, he is. Okay,
85.7 PFF grade, number one at the running back position. In the more impressive part is that he is top 2 in both run grade and receiving grade, both above an 82. That's just an incredible consistent mark from such a young guy.
He's an animal, man.
He brings the pain.
Oh, he's animal.
So fun to watch.
Yeah, he's like the modern day Mike Allstott in a lot of ways.
He just slams guys. Monster. He is fearless.
I love that though. That's a great single parlay. I believe the one that Judah hit was 70-1, right? Yeah. So you're going to double him.
You're going big.
You're trying to double
home run.
I'm trying to one up him a little bit.
I love that. Mason, what's your same game parlay of the week?
So for me, we're going to go back to that Washington-Atlanta game, and I've got one here at 37-1. We're really telling the story that Atlanta breaks their tendencies. They get less predictable and just gash a poor Washington coverage unit. I like them. Atlanta minus 2.5. We're going to move that line in their favor there. Michael Penix Jr. plus 280 passing yards, plus 2 touchdowns. Drake London to have a 100-yard game. And then we're going to fold in that Bijan Robinson receiving prop. That one I like independently, where I think that you can play that and get good payoff in it, but you can fold it into this one too and get a nice additional boost there. And really the big thing is, like we already talked about, I won't spend too much time on it. Washington is just pretty poor in coverage downfield. They're last in coverage grade at 37.7. Not a good look. 20 receptions of 15 or more yards. That's third most in the NFL. 9.6 yards per coverage target. That is also third most. 122.2 passer rating allowed. Fourth most. Now missing Will Harris. It's really just a tough look. And when you look at the performances that we've seen against them, Geno Smith and Jordan Love both go over 280 and 2 touchdowns. Trey Tucker Kraft over 100 yards. Now, I know Drake London's not named Tucker for some reason. I give up a boatload of yards to guys named Tucker. But I think he's still going to have a similarly excellent game.
Yeah, the Falcons, they're kind of in that same boat as the Packers, where it's like coming off a rough loss to Carolina, going back home. Washington riding high after a big win against the Raiders. I'm on the Atlanta side in general in this game, and I think it's a spot where Penix can come out and have success passing downfield against his Commander's secondary, like you're kind of calling out with a lot of your legs in this same game parlay. And then on the other side of the ball, like the Falcons' defense has kind of been sneaky good through the first couple weeks of the season. They lost 30-0 last week to Carolina, but Penix threw a pick 6. Like, it's not like they got shredded by the Panthers necessarily. So if they're able to limit the run game against Washington, we still don't necessarily know if Jane Daniels and Terry McLaurin are playing. I think this is a spot that makes sense to be on the Falcons.
Yeah, I like it. All right, my same game parlay. Usually Judah's would be an NFL one. Obviously, it's the PFF NFL betting show. But since I'm the host of the PFF College Football Show, I'm going to give you guys a college football parlay I like this weekend. Starting off tonight, with Florida State. I like Florida State -7 against Virginia. I think Florida State is a top 10 team in the country. Yes, Virginia is 3-1 in the season, but they haven't really played anyone just yet. I think this line should be much bigger than it is right now. I got Florida State -7 at Virginia tonight. Unfortunately for me, as a lifelong Penn State fan, I don't like the Nittany Lions to win this weekend in the whiteout against Oregon. Oregon is on fire right now, and they're +145 on the road against Penn State. Penn State, meanwhile, their offense is a little hot and cold right now through the first 3 weeks, and they have not played anyone in the first 3 weeks either. They played Nevada, FIU, and Villanova. I think Oregon's going to go in there and get a major win in that whiteout environment. My favorite upset bet of the week on the PFF College Football Show was California +190 over Boston College. I get it. It's a cross-country trip for the Golden Bears, and I get it. They're coming off a 34-0 loss to San Diego State this past week, but Cal did beat Minnesota earlier in the year as a better team. I think that Boston College has beaten all year. I don't know how good Boston College is just yet. I kind of like California to pull off that upset right there. LSU +105. Number 4 LSU is an underdog on the road against number 13 Ole Miss. I think LSU's got the better quarterback in the game, better overall team in the game. I get it, they're on the road too, but I like the LSU Tigers. I like Auburn as well. Shout out Zach Dantillo right there, +195 to get a big upset over Texas A&M this week. A&M has been a little shaky in run defense so far this year. Auburn's run game has been phenomenal, and on the other side, A&M's run game has been pretty good, but Auburn's run defense has been elite this year, one of the best run defense grades in all of college football. I think that game could come down to who runs the ball better, and I think Auburn is going to come out on top in that. And I'm sorry, Ben, but I'm going Louisville -4.5 against the Panthers, Pittsburgh's Panthers right now, your alma mater. I just think Louisville is a really good team, and I'm not totally convinced on Pittsburgh just so I like Louisville -4.5. And I'm actually going to one-up you. I have my parlay is 157 to 1, right? Listen, I might be on the betting show once this year. I'm going big. Go big or go home, baby. So +157 for that parlay right there.
We got Dalton in the chat saying Max going 0 for 6 on those college picks. So
probably
that means Pitt's going to win. So I'm with Dalton.
Any thoughts, Mason, or no?
Oh wait, what's our saying for Dalton? Never right, always early.
Yeah, never right, always early.
It's the opposite of what,
or always late.
Of what the rule is for the rest of us. No, and I love it, and I'm gonna be betting this one too. We're tailing Max in this one, and if you guys aren't watching the PFF College Football Show, go do it. The PFF College Football Grade Release Show. These guys put on the best college football show in the business.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. I just was going through like, okay, what do I like this week? I kept adding more. I was like, oh god, I have a 6-leg college parlay right now. Probably no way this hits, but hey, if it does hit, we're gonna make a lot of money here on the PFF Betting Show, which is ultimately the goal of the PFF Betting Show as well. Let's get some of the best prop bets in the chat right now. We've got a few in the chat. Wesley Anthony says Jordan Love over 1.5 touchdowns passing. Based, Ben, off of what you think the game's going to look like, I think we're all in agreement. That's probably a really good bet.
Yeah, all in on the Packers offense. We got a Matthew Golden bet in there as well, over 42.5 receiving yards. So you can make a somewhat same-game parlay out of some of these bets in here.
Yeah, I like it. Joe Flacco over 35.5 passing attempts from Tyler and Booth right there. Mason, any thoughts on that bet right there?
They're going to be playing from behind. So I could definitely see something happening like that. It's a tough look if you got to lean on Flacco for 35.5 passing attempts. But at even money, not a bad one.
We have a lot of Green Bay Packers bets in the chat right now. Beckett going with Matthew Golden over receiving yards. Dalton going with Matthew Golden over receiving yards and a touchdown as well for the parlay, +350 parlay right there. So, yeah, we got a lot of Green Bay Packers bets in the chat. Not a lot of people trusting the Dallas Cowboys defense. And it's hard to, considering how much they've struggled so far this year, too.
Yeah, and another one that I see here, Beckett, PFF Beck. Go follow him, you guys, on Twitter, and follow the PFF betting account also over on Twitter. He likes Pacheco over 34.5 rushing yards. Ben, this is one that we've talked about quite a bit. It's a tough look because, obviously the Ravens have really struggled on the interior, and they've really struggled stopping the run. I think they have one of the worst run defense grades in the NFL right now. But it's really been a difficult ask with Kansas City because they just are sort of refusing to run the ball to a big degree.
I was on Pacheco overs, which the over might have hit. I was on Pacheco alts, unfortunately, in that Giants Sunday night game.
Yeah.
And it's like every time he runs the ball, like it looked okay.
Yeah,
and
he's angry. He runs the ball like I saw it on Twitter one time. Somebody said he runs the ball like somebody took his family hostage, and unless he gets 5 yards per carry, he's not going to get them back type thing.
Him and Cam Scatterbo, man.
And that's what they look like. That's what he looks like running the ball. They just need to beat him a little bit.
It was frustrating because you're just sitting there. And it's like 15 straight Mahomes dropbacks. It's like, why did I bet Pacheco overs?
Oh, I love it. All right,
this is going to be the spot where he breaks out, of course, right?
Yeah, never wrong, just early. You're on the PFF NFL betting show. But I remind you guys, please download the PFF Plus app right now to get all of the best betting insights and fantasy football insights too for NFL Week 4. And you can get it for 25% off right now with the promo code PFF NFL Show 25. Judah will be back on the show next week, don't you worry. But for Mason Cameron, for Ben Linsey, for our producers back there, and Tyler and Quinn, I'm Max Chadwick. We'll see you guys next week for the PFF NFL Betting Show.